What's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy FREIERMUTH, just in case you did not know so. And today we're going over the tight ends. My defensive interior video should already be out, but we're going to go over the tight end group in the 2021 NFL draft class. I'm going to give you my top 10 today. There we go. And if you're a Bro Scout tier member, you're going to get my full rankings. Not that there's a lot of draftable tight ends. A lot of these guys decide to return, and I think we're going to be lucky to see 10 tight ends even get drafted this year. But that's just my opinion on it. Nonetheless, we're going to still rank these guys. I'm going to go through it with you. Go ahead, let me know what you think at the comment section below, and go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave that thumbs up if you enjoy the content, and I assure you, we went over the weaker classes today with the defensive interior and the tight end. It gets much better. We go over tackles and safeties tomorrow. So be sure you're here for that. And again, if you want my full rankings, you got to become a Bro Scout tier. So without further ado, let's go ahead. Let's dive in. Kyle Pitts, of course, he's number one. We're going to start at 1. Kyle Pitts is number 1, hands down. I got a top 15 projection on him. Just huge catch radius, very explosive out of his cuts, out of his breaks and routes, just consistently getting separation. And he also showed in 2019 he was a very good contested catcher. He catch contested passes good. There we go. English. He did improve a bit as a blocker, particularly as a run, like as a pass blocker. He's actually a pretty decent pass blocker, but you gotta believe when they have the virtual combine, he's gonna come in weighing a lot more than 235. At least you hope so, because I mean, he's played in line, but a majority of his snaps come from the slot, come from the outside, so he's more like a jumbo receiver. But he's only 20 years old, so best believe he'll fill that frame out. And you know what? He isn't as fast as you may think with how he wins. It's just he's very savvy. He runs those tight end routes very well, and he actually has an extremely large route tree. Big fan of Kyle Pitts' game. The dude's just a stud. The closest thing to like a Darren Waller or a Travis Kelce that we have, by no means would I say he's a George Kittle, because that man can block, and he can block well. So let's talk about Pat FREIERMUTH. Speaking of blocking and blocking well, probably one of the best blockers in this draft. Not that fast though, but he wins routes with in a variety of different ways, whether it's how he runs it or the physicality in which he runs it. Speaking of physicality, he's a bit of a battering ram, dude. He just forces yards after contact, looks like a man among boys when doing so. I mentioned him winning physically along his routes, but he could definitely, for a tight end, he could definitely be a bit more physical on those. I would like to see him better at the consistent contested catch. And then if we're gonna nitpick, he has an 8% drop rate throughout his career, which once you get to that 10% as a playmaker, it's kind of concerning, like a lot. You don't want a 10% drop rate. So I like FREIERMUTH a lot. I think he's immediately an above average tight end for most squads. So good on FREIERMUTH here. Brevin Jordan out of Miami got a 3rd round grade on this cat. He has speeds and quicks to be a very dangerous route runner. He had 21 forced missed tackles on 105 career receptions. Does need to grow as a route runner, but again, the speed and the quicks, it makes you believe, makes you think he can. His ball skills kind of been an issue. He's only 11 to 33 on career, over his career on contested catches. Barely played in line as a blocker like at all. So you gotta wonder. I mean, maybe he puts on more weight and he can do so. Doesn't have like the craziest catch radius. And I kind of mentioned that Kyle Pitts kind of feels more like a jumbo receiver. I mean, Jordan just kind of feels like a receiver, not so much a tight end, but it's slim pickings in this tight end class. You got to take what you get. And there are a lot of things to like about Jordan, so don't get me wrong there. You just got to point out that stuff, you know? Hunter Long, man, got a 4th round grade on him. Could easily sneak into the 3rd round because he's like your prototypical above average tight end for a team. You know, great size, decent speed, great ball skills. Actually, I mean, he's actually got some of the best ball skills in this class with the huge catch radius. But he's an average athlete. You know, he's not very dynamic after the catch. So that's where the whole, maybe he's more your above average type of tight end, but he'll occasionally pull out like the circus catch here and there. And then I have Tony Tremble out of Notre Dame. And after this, I think the tight end class kind of falls off a bit because Tony Tremble, man, I think he's very similar to Josiah DeGara that came out of Cincinnati last year. By no means do you draft him in the 3rd round. But I think you kind of use him in that fullback, H-back type of role, like a Kyle check. Because he's very fast and very explosive. And he was actually one of the best run blockers in all of college football, man. It's just he doesn't have a lot of production to his name through 2 seasons. He lost a lot of snaps to Michael Mayer, the other Notre Dame tight end, who was a freshman. You know, he got outsnapped by I think 92. Yeah. Our boy Michael had 92 more snaps than Tommy here. So I mean, just part of me thinks, you know, like I can definitely see the Jets taking Tony Tremble. Now that I think about it, maybe not in the 3rd round, but I mean, I think there is a place for him, and he could succeed and succeed very well. It's just, you know, you worry about it because you haven't seen a lot from him, or at least a lot of production. And then I said the tight end class kind of falls off after 5, but I mean, Trey McKitty by no means is a bad prospect. You know, he's got 11-inch hands, you know, huge hands, made some circus one-hand catches there at the Senior Bowl. He was a very solid blocker for Georgia. He actually didn't do as well in the blocking drills when I went back and watched it as I thought he would, but he never really went, it's weird, he never really went out for passes there at Georgia. Just Georgia didn't really utilize him a lot. So, I mean, there's aspects of him you like. It's just we haven't seen a lot of him. That's just the thing, you know. In a tight end class this skim, you know, you're just gonna take a chance on a guy like this. So Trey McKitty, and okay, I will say it now. Now the tight end class, I think, falls off a cliff. Like, I could easily see no one else getting drafted from this class. I got Tony, POLJAN from Virginia. He was a transfer from Central Michigan. He was a former quarterback, believe it or not. Guy's 6'7", 265 now, man. But he's kind of your ideal tight end too, because he's not a very dynamic athlete, but he's got a huge catch radius. He's really developed into a solid blocker for only being a tight end for the last 3 seasons. Really 2 starting. And just he's got ideal blocking size for a tight end, and I think he'll see a lot of red zone snaps. But I mean, that's about it. I could definitely see him going late day 3. But yeah, on to the next. KYLEN GRANSON out of SMU, man. He's not a tight end. Plain and simple, he's just not a tight end. He's a vertical separator. He has a solid route tree, but he was used a lot in the slot. Like, he doesn't have much size, and he was hardly ever used as a blocker in that air raid offense that they ran there at SMU. But for a guy that was used a lot as a receiver, ball skills just aren't there. So maybe a guy you take a late round flyer on, or not, man. Maybe someone you just take as an undrafted free agent, really. And then Kenny YEBOAH out of Ole Miss. A lot of people are high on this cat. He's a grad transfer out of Temple. He's more of a tweener, though, than an actual tight end. Like, he has good speed, but not great speed. Solid route runner, but he played a lot more in the slot for Ole Miss. He was a willing blocker, but that's not saying much. Much of his production there at Ole Miss was very schemed by the lane train himself. Again, just feels like a tweener. Don't really know how he'll be utilized in the NFL. So, but let's go ahead and finish off with 10 here. Nick, is it EUBANKS? Out of Michigan. Dude's 24 years old. Already starting pretty old. Already starting up there in dog years. So he's probably going to be the player that we see now. The problem with him is he really had no production at Michigan. I think he only had like, what, almost 600 career receiving yards. But he's got a long athletic frame, which I'm willing to bet translates to success. But there's no real agility, no quickness to him. He's nothing more than really a willing blocker. He wasn't really used much as a blocker there in Michigan. And when he was, again, it was nothing special. That is kind of the theme for the last 4 prospects here. I mean, that's not true. I think the tight end out of Virginia, he has a good chance of being drafted. I could see him being a solid tight end 2 on our roster. But yeah, GRANSON, YEBOAH, EUBANKS, and even the guys after this, man, it's just not a sexy class after everyone kind of decided to return, like James Mitchell, like Trey McBride, like Charlie Collar. Yeah, a ton of guys decided to return and really hurt the class. It's definitely probably the weakest of any of the position group. And I appreciate you hanging out with me for the video. But of course, if you're the bro tier scouts, you're going to see my other 5 tight ends that I have evaluated here. Because like I said, man, the class is kind of lacking. But that's it for the video. Go ahead, do that YouTube thing. And until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.